Wonderful good morning, Rohan. It's a pleasure having you with us today. First coffee chat of the year. Thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're very, very busy. You're in the middle of a very, very busy season back in Marrakesh, and it's really, really great that you took time out of your busy schedule to speak a little bit about your journey that you've had in hospitality and your experience at IMI. So thank you for that.
Well,
Would you
good
mind
morning, Joel. And I just want to say thank you for having me.
Thank you as well. If you could give us a little introduction about yourself and just let us know where exactly you're joining us from today.
My name is Rohan Ogale, of course, an alumni of the wonderful IMI Lucerne, and I started, obviously born and raised in Mumbai, but I started my journey in hospitality with IMI in all the way back in 2003. Post which, of course, with multiple internships, not only in Switzerland and the Dominican Republic, I had the opportunity of working around the world, whether it's the United States, back home in India, in the UAE, in Thailand, and now in Marrakesh, Morocco.
Okay, wow, thank you very much. And currently you are at the Oberoi in Marrakesh as a general manager. Could you give us a little bit of an overview what your daily tasks are, what you do on a daily basis?
Well, as a general manager of a hotel, you're typically, obviously, responsible for every aspect of what a hotel stands for, whether it's the service delivery, the business performance, obviously relationship with the local community, setting standards at the same time, relationship with owners, and of course, building corporate relations and driving strategic actions for the hotel. Well, my day comprises of a lot of different things. It's quite a busy day, I have to say. My typical day is between 12, 14 hours or more, and you're always on standby for the most part as a general manager. But it involves a lot of different things. I mean, looking at various aspects of the guest experience, but at the same time, looking at the various divisions of a hotel and managing those operations, driving the operations to move forward. But at the same time, reviewing business, and then I spend a lot of time developing business for the hotel. So that's another very key aspect of what I do.
Okay, thank you very much. If could you give us a little bit of an overview? So you studied in IMI in 2003. Could do you have before we go into more questions about your career journey and growth? Could you describe maybe in 3 words what your IMI experience was like? Very, very briefly back then.
I think if I would say 3 words, it would be obviously friendships. There were lovely bunch of friendships that were made. Foundation, because it was a foundation for what was to come in a career in luxury hospitality. And of course, a strong education. And this is where I would say 3 things that really stand out with IMI. Of course, being located in Switzerland, that was always an advantage because you get exposed to a lot more than you would in many parts of the world. So that's another key element of bringing the IMI experience together.
I think I agree with you because I mean I was an alumni of IMI as well. 10 years later than you were, 2013, 14. I graduated from IMI, and I think, as you said, the friendships are still intact. Even from back then, you've made some very, very valuable connections. These you and the great thing is now you can travel all over the world to meet these people, which is an amazing experience, especially in hospitality. So it's so much easier nowadays to stay connected, of course, also, and to see where the journey takes them. And I think what you mentioned as well, the benefit of having studied in Switzerland, I think, is immense. I'm not, again, 2003, of course, was back then. During my time, we had the opportunity to interview directly on campus with major companies. So in my case, I had the opportunity to interview with Hyatt for the corporate leadership training program. And there was a great opportunity to meet with key decision makers in the industry. And I was very lucky to be selected. And that is thanks to, yeah, to IMI and of course to the education that we receive in Switzerland, that these key decision makers, I think they come on campus, they speak to students, because let's be realistic, I think in a normal world, it's very rare, to have an interview with a general manager such as yourself when you're going for an entry level position. This usually does not happen, unless maybe you have a different approach to things. But so that this is definitely an advantage, like you said, coming here to study in this wonderful country. You have the opportunity to get in direct contact and build a network with these key decision makers, and that, of course, then if you do everything right, accelerates your growth as well.
Absolutely. And you have to remember
Yeah.
a couple of things. I think one is that when you study in Switzerland, it opens a lot of doors, which you may not have studying in different parts of the world, because Swiss education still remains, I would say, the premier education for hospitality in the world. There are opportunities that open up which you would not be able to grasp, especially if you're interested in hospitality on an international circuit. And the second aspect, of course, being the exposure. I remember studying with 33 different nationalities in school, and obviously learning so much about different cultures. And I think those cultural learnings were a very key aspect of developing a career in international luxury hospitality. So it was really a foundation, and that's why I said, the second key word is foundation, because it sets you up for a lot of different things in life, which possibly would not have had the opportunity to, if I was, for example, studying back in India.
Exactly. I mean, it's now when we look at our campus, when we are in the classroom, for example, we have our MSc program is probably one of the best examples of that. We have 8 students in the MSc program at this moment, and it's 8 different nationalities, So you can imagine, of course, getting to meet people from various parts in the world. We've had students from Bhutan. I've never personally before met anyone from Bhutan. So it's really amazing to get to meet people from these places. It's very, very exciting. And the students, of course, build this great network and get to learn more about these different cultures. And then they can apply that later on in their career as well, when they're welcoming guests from these countries. Because having worked at the front office for many years, I always believed in building strong relationships with guests, to make sure that they come back. Of course, that was always the idea. And the key to that, I think, has always been building that personal connection, knowing about where they're coming from, knowing their interests and being able to relate to these interests. And of course, also having broad knowledge, I think, general knowledge as well, being up to date on current events, so that you always have something, to talk about, so that you make yourself interesting and
Indeed.
build network, and that these customers then, or these guests, when they come back, they remember you, they remember your name, and they're happy to see you, I think. And this is in the essence what IMI does as well, because at an early stage you get this exposure to these cultures. I think that's an amazing opportunity for our students, and it's we foster that, international night. I'm not too sure if you had that back then.
We did. We did. It was always a fun one. Yeah. It was probably a good time to obviously see everyone in their own cultural attire, but at the same time, putting together little performances. Obviously, food was very important from different countries. I think it was one of the fun evenings that we put together at IMI.
And it still is. I think it's still one of the ones that everyone looks forward to. It's the students and the staff. I always look forward to the food. Because, no, I mean, the reality of things is that having grown up in Asia, and food is so important. It's such a central element of the culture. Not, if it's in Singapore, if it's Malaysia, India, Thailand, Vietnam, wherever you are, food is so integral, in the culture. You connect over food. So I always feel like, um, you know, the students can best showcase their culture through the food that they offer. So I'm always very, very excited to go and eat as much as possible. I always regret it afterwards, usually the next day, because I've eaten too much. But it's always one of the best experiences for our students, I think, as well. If they're doing the cultural dances on campus, playing the piano, singing songs from back home. We've had a shadow theater from Indonesia, for example. All these kind of things. It's really, really amazing to see, and it's always a fun night, definitely. And I'm very happy to hear that this has been a tradition that has been going on for, well, more than 20 years now,
Yeah,
basically.
indeed, indeed.
So that's really, really nice to hear. Um, so we've already kind of touched a little bit on how IMI prepared you for your current career. Um, but how was it possible? Like, did IMI back then, did they help you secure your first internship? That's more my job nowadays, where I meet with the students. Was it the same back then as well, where you sat down with the career counselors and you had a look at the different options, where you spoke about interests? Did you have or I mean, nowadays, the reality of things is a lot of students don't really know what they want, what they want to become in the future. Whilst when I came here, I knew I wanted to become a general manager in the future. That was my goal back then. How was it for you? Were you also one of those students that was still very, undecided, so to speak?
No, I was fairly clear when I started with IMI. I mean, the goal was to become a general manager and further grow into a corporate role as well. I think the the understanding was, of course, that hospitality is very vast. Working in a luxury hotel is not the only element of working in the hospitality industry. There are many, many, many different fields. Whether you choose working in a cruise liner, whether you decide to work in a restaurant group, or whether you choose to even work in fast food like a McDonald's, one might think that that's below their I would say preference line, but the reality of the matter is you can build a very strong career in that field itself. And then, of course, there are some people who would prefer working in the travel industry. So many different factions of I would say hospitality. And I think for me, what was very critical was to get a bit of different experiences. And it was a bit different back then. Obviously, now there are more opportunities, but in those days, it really depended on what were the partnerships with different schools. My first internship was secured with through IMI, and it was in the French part of Switzerland in a beautiful revolving restaurant on top of the mountain. And that was my first experience, which was really a restaurant. My second internship, I happened to secure it myself, was in the Dominican Republic with a five-star all-inclusive resort, which is a totally different experience altogether. And then post graduation through IMI campus recruitment, I had the opportunity to take on a management training program in the United States in a luxury country club, which was again a totally different experience, from what we would expect. And then thereafter, when I was on my own, obviously looking at options within luxury hotels, I was hired for the opening of the Atlantis, the Palm, but I also had the opportunity for joining the Oberoi in Mumbai, which I thought was probably the best thing I could have ever done in my career. And when I look back, I think that was probably the best decision that I ever made. And I was very lucky to have the opportunity because Oberoi as a brand does not typically recruit from outside because they have their own hotel school, their own management program, where you graduate and you, in essence, become a manager once you graduate. So it was one of those rare opportunities. We seized the moment, and since then it's been no looking back. I have worked with different brands. I did leave the Oberoi group for a while. I did work with the St. Regis. in Dubai and the Four Seasons in Chiang Mai. But then I think I had a very, very profound um, love for the brand and for the Oberoi family, who are incredible hoteliers. And that's one of the reasons why I found my way back into the company and with the opportunity in Marrakesh.
Okay. Could you give us a bit, because Oberoi itself in Europe is not, as well known yet. How many properties do you have across the globe at this
So we
point?
have 32 properties. In fact, we're opening one in 15 days, so it'll be 33. Um, Oberoi is rated as one of the world's best hotel brands, but it is niche. And when I say niche, is obviously because it is present in limited markets. We have obviously a very strong presence in India, by far in terms of luxury hotels and guest experience. The Oberoi is the number one brand in India, but we have a number of hotels internationally as well, including now Morocco. We have two incredible cruise liners on the Nile, which are by far the best. We have an incredible hotel in Mauritius, in Bali, in Lombok. We have another one in Hurghada, and we are expanding globally. So we'll be opening London in at the end of 2027, opposite the Claridge's. So that's a great entry into Europe. But I know as a company we have many projects globally that are coming up, and the Oberoi brand slowly but steadily will start entering different markets and will be more recognized. To be honest with you, a lot of guests who've stayed at one Oberoi hotel then become Oberoi loyalists. And that is because the brand really stands for, I would say, an epitome of guest experience. And this is something that Oberoi loyalists absolutely look forward to. We have guests that come and stay 5, 6 times a year just at our hotel. And for guests who tried the Oberoi for the first time, are already booking many of the other Oberoi hotels around the world. So it's wonderful to see, and it is a brand that really takes luxury hospitality and heartfelt service to another level.
Could you give us some examples? Because I know it is kind of the personal, having worked in luxury hospitality for many years as well, I know it's always been the personalized service, the experience nowadays that people are looking for. They're not so much looking for, people carrying their bags after them, sir, madam, every day, they're more looking for, yeah, so for memories. I think that's what hotels are nowadays trying to create,
That's
right?
what we always do. And Oberoi as a brand is a company that really looks at personalizing the experience. So first, we obviously try to know a lot more about our guests. There is a lot of personalized interaction between the management of the hotel and the guests, which is incredibly important, because very often you check into a hotel, you don't really interact with any of the senior management here. The engagement is very much there. We're very much present. We're very much on the floor. The great thing about the Oberoi is that there are a lot of little touch points that are added to the guest experience, based on their preferences, etc. So, once we know a little more about the guest, um, all of a sudden, each of the teams are working on adding a little touch points. To give you an example, Oberoi is extremely famous, and especially in housekeeping, is the little touches that one would notice. They would see a laptop there, they would immediately provide with a mouse. They would provide a mouse pad. They would always ensure that there's a laptop cleaning kit for the screen that's placed next to the guest. If you read a lot of comments about the Oberoi, you'll notice that very often the guests who's brought their own toothpaste is running out. Next thing you know, there will be a brand new toothpaste, the same brand, with a little note saying, we noticed that your toothpaste was almost over, and we've taken the liberty of offering you a new toothpaste. So it's those little details. Also, small things such as a book having a bookmark, a charger being nicely tied up with an Oberoi little Velcro strip, and touches just within the room. The guest notices very little things. I mean, just this morning, I had a message from my team that they noticed that one of the family's children's shoes was a bit dirty. They took it upon themselves to take the shoes, have it properly cleaned and placed back, and the guest is absolutely delighted. And these are touches. It's anticipating things without the guest asking. Um, that is just one example. I mean, on a daily basis, we have many. We also empower the teams. The teams in Oberoi as a brand, we have something called empowerment of our team members, where they can spend up to a certain amount per day in order to have a very profound impact on the guest without asking for permission from anyone. Don't need to go to a manager, don't need to go to anybody. They just notice certain things, and the next thing they take the decision and spend the money to do what needs to be done. So these are what this is what makes luxury hotels. And at the end of the day, as Mr. Oberoi always said, you could build a hotel out of gold, but nobody would come there unless you had great service. So it doesn't matter whether it's a group, whether it is a VIP guest or anyone. Everyone is treated like a king or queen, and that's where we stand as a brand in delivering an exceptional service.
Yeah, I think this is exactly. I mean, it's just in alignment with most of the luxury brands nowadays that are trying to retain customers. Of course, I think that is really trying to go the extra mile, making sure that you anticipate the guest's need before the guest even realizes. Right? That's the idea. It's these kind of the creating moments, basically, for the guests, and that kind of like stay in the back of their mind, remembering these small things, and then making their decision obviously to stay in an Oberoi again in the future. And I think the London opening, I think there's a lot of people probably looking forward to that. But again, it's always a location thing, isn't it? I'm sure you guys would love to open a property maybe in Zurich as well at some point, or maybe in Geneva, but it's always a matter of finding the right location for this property, right?
Well, I think location is definitely important, but one of the important things is the ability to be able to deliver an Oberoi experience. Now, Oberoi obviously stems from Asia. It has the foundations in Asian hospitality, which is very, very strong, and well recognized globally. Now, if you were to enter a market like the United Kingdom or Switzerland, you should have the ability to deliver the same experience, because the idea is consistency. So location is definitely a factor, but it is also about how we can deliver that experience. And I think in Marrakesh, even though say the mothership is in India, in Marrakesh we're able to deliver as good, if not better, an experience than what we do in Oberoi in India. So that is always the objective. So we can open in London, we can open in Paris. Opening hotels is never a challenge. I think as a company, the philosophy is very clear. Is if we were to open internationally, it's about finding the right partners who share the same vision as the Oberoi family, but at the same time, obviously, the right location and the ability to be able to deliver the right experience. And this is a very critical aspect of how they select properties. During my time working with Mr. PRS Oberoi, the chairman emeritus, the late chairman emeritus, he would always highlight that many people approach him to open hotels around the world, but it's unless he finds that the hotel is up to, I would say, the standards of what an Oberoi expects, he would not engage. And that's why you would see the expansion of the brand is extremely slow. Many hotel companies have expanded too fast. And when they've expanded too fast, they've lost consistency.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that as an Oberoi brand, we will not allow. We need to maintain a certain quality. It's the brand reputation. People select the Oberoi because when they go to one, they expect a certain level and a certain standard. So expanding too fast is sometimes good for shareholders and things, but not always the best for the brand reputation.
No, yeah, I mean, it's true. If you look at how many hotels have, I'm not going to say any names of competitors, but if you look at hotels that have rapidly expanded and then had to close their properties because they were not working, or occupancy was low, that all comes back to, yeah, lack of consistency, and standards, and maybe also the right people. I think this is always what I'm trying to tell our students is, hospitality builds also personality. I think before I started working in hotels, I used to be very grumpy. Being German, that's kind of a predisposition. That we're always very, very serious. Usually, we're not always the most welcoming in cases. And working a few years in hospitality really kind of changed that character and that mindset as well. And this is kind of what I'm trying to instill in the students is, go out there, don't be afraid. It's okay to make mistakes, but just try to experience as much as possible. Don't take the safe route, don't take the big salary. Try to go for the exciting projects, things that you would, put you a little bit out of your comfort zone as well. I spent in Dubai. I was in 2 years in the Grand Hyatt in Dubai, as a corporate management trainee, and before I worked for 3 years for another hotel chain, but it was a completely different dimension.
Yeah.
I think as a training ground, when you go to the Middle East, to hotels in Asia, I really feel that's where you see luxury hospitality at its best, but also at a very large scale. I think this was kind of, that was my experience. So we always nowadays encourage our students, same like you did as well, do an internship in Switzerland, get to know the culture, get to know the management style, and then go overseas as well. Even though the internship salaries might not be as good as in Switzerland, that's always the case. But get that international experience before you know, graduate.
Look, it only all depends because it really depends on what you want to aspire to do. I think a lot of my fellow, friends and students who were in my batch, a lot of them were intended to go back and work with family businesses or other things. So obviously that was their objective. So Swiss education was a foundation, and then they go back. My intention was always to stay on the international circuit and kind of build a life from there. And obviously, it takes a lot of hard work and it takes a lot of effort to get there. And salaries, well, if you chase salaries, the likelihood of long term, um, I would say, stagnation is always a risk. I think the hotel industry in general is not an industry that pays extremely high at lower levels, and you have to work your way up. But once you reach a certain level, yes, it is rewarding. And I remember my time starting, um, in hotels, I had hardly a salary. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, starting as a restaurant manager, my salary used to be $500 gross. So once you take out taxes and everything, it's hardly anything. I think you know um, a lot of people looked at me and said, you rather work for free than actually take a salary like that. But the reality of the matter is that it is a start, and that salary multiplies over time as soon as you start growing in your career and start taking the opportunity to develop yourself. And now it's a very different story, right? So for those who were critics of me at that stage in my career, now look at me and say, wow, well done. it's a it's incredible a journey.
Yeah, and you get to travel a lot as well, which I think is an amazing opportunity. There's very few jobs I think where you can spend 2 years here, 2 years there, going to very exotic places and where people usually go on vacation and just experiencing different cultures and then having the opportunity to build something, build a team, and then move on and
Yeah,
continue. I think there's
I
very
think.
few jobs that offer this nowadays. So
Well, to be honest, it's nice, especially initially 2 3 years here, 2 3 years there. But I think for me, finding a little bit of stability is also important. So I've been in Marrakesh for 6.5 years now, which is not normal. Typically, hotel companies would move people around
mm,
every 3 years, but the reality is that it is a very challenging market. It's highly competitive, and for a general manager to come in and learn the market in itself takes a year and a half. So to move somebody in 3 years is counterproductive because you haven't given the person the opportunity to really deliver on after really having a strong understanding of the market and relationships. And so 6.5 years here, and probably many more to come. But it is an opportunity for me to also find a little bit of
mm,
be good, little grounded, because
stability maybe.
it's nice to move every 3 years, but it can be hard on family. It can be these kind of things of constantly moving and readapting to a new culture, new environment. It's not the easiest thing to do, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's something that everyone can handle. I chose it as a career path, and I really wanted to do that, but it's not always the case.
Priorities change, I think, also, right? Over time, I think it always depends on the personal, you know, priorities. These kind of things change. I always wanted to become a general manager. Now I'm sitting here, so yeah, things change. Life happens, maybe you meet your wife or whatever, and then priorities anyways change once you have a family. So if you have the opportunity to, follow what you enjoy, like to do, that's great, I think. And
Yeah.
that's an amazing thing if you really enjoy it. Speaking of that, you've been now there for 6.5 years. Well, what still excites you about, your current position there, projects?
Look, we opened at a very difficult time. We opened 3 months before the pandemic started. It was a very
Mm,
rough start. For any hotel to open just before a pandemic is absolutely suicidal. I think the reality is that we held strong. We grew from there, and then in 2023, Marrakesh was hit by a very big earthquake, which
mm,
again was another crisis situation that we had to overcome. And I have to say now, 2025, things have been very, very strong, and we're breaking record numbers. So that's obviously very exciting. We have a lot of interesting things coming up in the year ahead. A lot of very strong business, I would say, indicators. But at the same time, the FIFA World Cup 2030 is actually going to be in Morocco along with Spain and Portugal. So the country is growing economically, infrastructure wise, business wise. Tourism is at its peak in Marrakesh. So there's a lot to look forward to. And one of my mentors always said, always work in a destination that is growing and be part of the growth. You can be in London, you can be in Paris, but everything that had to be done is already done.
yeah.
But countries like Morocco, which are at the forefront of economic development, very stable economy, very stable political situation, obviously, and governed really well by His Majesty, the King. So there's so much opportunity, and it's about being at the right place at the right time and seizing that opportunity. You'll probably notice in many other countries as well, such as Saudi Arabia, which is developing like crazy in preparation for becoming a major tourism hub. But then there are many other countries as well that offer similar experiences. So yes, while a lot of people want to experience and run to Dubai, Dubai, everything that had to be done is already done. Everything that had to be done in Singapore is already done. So find destinations that are growing, be part of the growth, be part of the advancement of the tourism and economic situation of the country. I think Morocco is probably the best place one could ask for at this time.
So that brings me to internships at your property. In this case, then almost is this big? I mean, we haven't spoken about that. Is this something that would be possible in principle for students? Do you take interns at your properties?
I believe my human resources department was in touch. This was, I think, 3 years ago. We've been in contact. Um, it is a possibility. You just have to keep in mind the visa requirements. If it is somebody from, in essence, somebody that can enter Morocco without any visa, that makes an internship possible and
Okay.
fairly easy. We do take interns on an annual basis. It really comes down to the candidates and whether they would be interested in working in Marrakesh. I know for a lot of students, sometimes they prefer staying within Switzerland just because they have, you know, they're already there and it's a little more comfortable. But yes, we have explored this opportunity. I know we've interviewed a couple of students a few years ago, and my human resource is definitely in touch.
Okay. So we should definitely pick up on that. That was before my time, I believe. That we should pick up on that because I think, as you said, get out of your comfort zone, experience something new, a completely different culture. But of course, they would also be, having as a IMI alumni, kind of looking after them a little bit, which of course also gives a bit of, yeah, makes them feel a little bit safer or maybe more comfortable with moving. So this is definitely something we should have a look at. I think that sounds very, very exciting. And I mean, you've advertised it also really well. I think, that if you want to become a successful manager in hospitality, Morocco is the go-to point for the future.
Well, if you look at the top 10 luxury hotels in the world, three are from Marrakesh. That is the level at which we operate at. And the destination by itself is a luxury destination. It has a lot of rich culture, history, heritage, but there is a certain romanticism about Marrakesh. There's a certain charm to the place. It's North Africa with a French influence, a local Amazigh Berber influence. There's so many different elements coming together, and it's a lovely place to be. Tourism is at its peak this year alone. We're at 24% growth in tourist arrivals. The number of flights that are just increasing, and we're within 3 hours of every major European city. So it's pretty much an extension of Europe, but with a totally different culture and experience.
No, it sounds great. We should definitely come and visit you sometime in the future. Who knows?
I look forward to it.
Need to speak to the wife first. Um, I know the time is getting a bit short. Just if there's any if would there be anything you would change looking back on your IMI days? I remember my IMI days. I am Mr. Arnaud was teaching me back then. Mr. Giorgio was teaching me back then. And what I would have liked to do different was maybe study a bit harder. That's the one thing I might have wanted to change and make their life a little bit easier. Is there anything of that sort for you as well from looking back? Or you're perfectly happy with how,
No, I think I'm perfectly happy because
Yeah.
look, there are things that you do well and there are things that you fail in. I still remember, and obviously I have a lot of respect for Mr. Arnaud Frappan-Bauger. I think he's an incredible professor. I even had the pleasure of having him here in Marrakesh, but also seeing him in Switzerland. I was there a few months ago, and passed by the hotel, and he took me for a wonderful walk around the property, and very, very, very grateful to him. But I told him something that he did not probably remember. My first assignment ever at school was through Mr. Arnaud Frappan-Gauger. And I actually failed that assignment, and only I think out of a batch of, I think we were about 35 students in my class alone, um, only three passed the assignment. And it was under the subject of tourism, and we were in shock. How did we fail this assignment? And obviously, it was a learning. So, if I could say, should I have changed that? Absolutely not, because from then on, it became a mission to really deliver, as per the expectations. And I worked extremely hard, and managed to literally top every semester of study. So it was that assignment failing that was a start to really getting things right. And again, I have to give a lot of credit to the other professors who I remember very fondly, and I hope I will have the opportunity to meet, including Mr. Gavin Codwell, Mr. Gareth Curry, uh, Mr. Matthias Pfeiffer, a very important person. Actually, one of the most incredible learnings through him, which still I use in today's, I would say, in my career. But at the same time, our principal at that point, Dr. Roy Wood, when I was there in that era of IMI, I believe nobody's there at the moment anymore. But that era of professors that were on site, I mean, there are many more, but these professors really, really stand out. And they're what shaped careers. They're what shaped how a person should be, how they should present themselves, you know. And today, I think, I've had the pleasure of spending some time with Mr. Frappan Boger, but would love to see the others. Dr. Roy Wood was with us in the Oberoi. He was the dean of the Oberoi Center of Learning and Development for a few years. So I did have the pleasure of meeting him at one of the Oberoi hotels. But hopefully, we'll have the chance of seeing Mr. Gareth Curry and Mr. Cordwell at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the people is kind of what stuck with me as well when I was studying at IMI, and also what was great coming back because you probably felt the same. I mean, it was a different campus back then for you, I believe, in
Nope.
2003. Was the same one.
Yeah.
Ah, also in Castaniban. Okay, I thought the move would happened. I think late. I think in early 2000s, if I'm not too wrong. So it was basically like coming back, and you felt almost like nothing had changed, right? Because the the professors are still the same, were still the same, the staff was still the same, so that when you entered the building, it was still the same people greeting you. That was the case for me when I joined here 3-4 years ago, and you immediately felt. Yeah, you felt a sense of belonging. I think that's kind of the uniqueness of IMI. I think because it is such a small school, and we have this very good relationship with our students, is that we become, yeah. It sounds a bit cheesy, right? But it's a big family essentially. The people, the connections that you build, and whenever you come back, it always feels like you were just gone for a few months or something like this. And I think that's something special and very unique about this place based on the people. Yeah.
So absolutely, and it's a stunning location as well, and the people obviously make the experience. But it's a stunning location in Kastanenbaum, and just spending that time in that environment is such a lovely feeling. And coming back to IMI after, wow, it's been more than 15 years. It was really a nice feeling. It was a nice feeling because I had very fond memories of having been there. And the place remains fairly untouched. I mean, obviously some changes, but in 15 years, overall, Kastanienbaum is more or less the same. And going down to Zay Hotel, short walk away, going to the lake, and seeing all the things that the beautiful spaces around was truly memorable, and I think I'm sure I'll be back at some point. I think it's a place that I really cherish, and hopefully we'll be there soon.
Yeah, we would love to host you. Let us know. We can have lunch in the Swiss room and with the same beautiful view as
Of
always.
course.
It would be great to have you. Um, do you have any final thoughts or messages for our current students? Anything you would like to instill in them, or what is important to be successful in hospitality?
I think one thing I took upon myself, and it worked, was to really understand that working in hotels and hospitality is a lot of hard work. And hard work in terms of hours. The reality of the matter is, when you work in luxury hotels, no matter which country, you don't have time off during the busy periods. So when it's holidays, when people are on holiday, you're working, and when they are
Yeah.
working, you're on holiday, in essence. So the life cycle changes a little bit. Having said that, it is very exciting, and if you put in the right level of hard work, focus, and keep developing, your skill, and there's no doubt that the sky is the limit, because you have the opportunity of working in different parts of the world, which is an incredible experience. You're not just going there on holiday, but you're actually living there. So it's a great, opportunity to gain a lot of cultural insights. But at the same time, what's beautiful about it is you get to meet guests from all over the world, and from different stratas. I mean, from celebrities, presidents, royal families, and it's not just meet them, but you actually have a meaningful conversation with them. And these are incredible things where you spend time with a lot of these people. You learn a lot, you know and it's an incredible experience. But at the same time, you really start to understand what interactions are all about, and you start developing a certain personality and confidence. These are things that are highly appreciated even outside the hotel field. I mean, today's day and age, somebody who studies hospitality management and has worked in the industry can actually work in almost any industry, and that's the beauty of it. So, but it comes down to a lot of hard work. Um, there are no shortcut methods, and the reality is, it takes a lot of effort, sometimes sacrifices, um, but the reality is, it pays back in the long run. So think of the long term gain.
No, that's true, and it's a great basis or and great foundation for any type of job you will do at a later stage. Because in essence, you learn how to deal with people, and you learn how to read people, and you learn how to make people happy. So this can be applied to almost any other industry as well.
That's true.
So that's what we tell the students as well. It's a strong foundation. You don't have to become a general manager. You can also become a director of a bank. You can do so many things wherever you have customer service. You can be very, very successful in this industry. So it's very varied as well. And there's so many opportunities, like you've mentioned before, in cruise ships, airline industries. There's something for everyone, I think, and That's what's important for that. What students should remember is, yeah, put in the hard work. The rewards will come later, usually.
Usually, I mean, obviously, work hard, make the right decisions, and keep
Yeah,
learning.
yeah. And don't be scared.
Yeah, that's true.
Go to Marrakesh, on an internship, for example. Why not?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Let's make it happen. Thank you very much for taking the time today, Rohan. It was great. Thank you for being, yeah, one of the first participants of our coffee chat, giving a bit of an insight to potential students, to current students, to alumni, to partners as well. And I hope to welcome you sometime
Thank
soon.
you, Tobias.
Again,
I look forward to meeting you in person at IMI. Yeah.
that would be great. Thank you very much, Rohan. Have a great day and then speak
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you.
Take
See
care.
you. Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.